Hey guys, what's up? Ready for another top 10? This time we're gonna make a top 10 of my favorite RPG franchise of all time. So, let's take a look. Okay, so top 10 best Suikoden games. Or rather, top 10 all Suikoden games. Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? But anyway, remember that this is my personal opinion, like always. So, let's start with number 10. Suikogaiden. Suikogaiden is a series of 2 visual novels for the PS1 that only came out in Japan, never released anywhere else. There are some English patches so you can play them on the PSP, or you could also watch the videos on YouTube. They tell a story that takes place during and after the events of Suikoden II, also for the PS1. Both focus on the adventures of a young man named Nash, who we get as an important character in Suikoden III. Now, there's not much to say about these 2 first volumes in terms of gameplay, because, well, you only make a few choices every now and then, but that's it. So there's basically no gameplay whatsoever. So, on to number 9. Of course, it has to be the Volume 2. Suikogaiden Volume 2, also for the PS1. And like I said, it was never released outside Japan. This is a direct sequel of the first volume, obviously, and it continues the story of Nash. You know, the cool thing about these 2 games, even though they're visual novels and barely offer any gameplay at all, is that you get to find out much more about Suikoden 2, since Nash encounters a lot of characters from that particular game, and also from Suikoden 1 and 3. So you'd have to be a hardcore fan like me in order to actually enjoy playing these games. Or if you're not into the series and are looking for a decent visual novel, these might actually get you into them. Both of them are pretty decent. So if you're a fan of Suikoden 2, by the way, I strongly recommend playing these 2 games. They're just good enough. And as visual novels, you know, they stand their own ground. So yeah, highly recommended. Number 8. Suikoden Tsumugareshi Hyakunen no Toki. Did I spell that right? In any case, this is yet another game that was never released outside Japan. And so sad to say, since, you know, it was the very last Suikoden game ever made, and it was for the PSP. Could it be that it's so bad that it ruined the entire franchise? I don't know, because I've never played it. That's right, the game doesn't have any English patches yet, so you can enjoy it like many other RPGs that never came out of Japan. There have been a few attempts, but nothing really determined as a matter of fact. I don't think it's a bad game at all from what it seems, and considering most of the Suikoden team had disbanded before the last 2 titles, including this one, I'm not surprised it was never released in Europe or North America. It's such a shame. I'd love to play an English version of this one day. So number 7. It goes for Suikoden Tierkreis for the Nintendo DS. This was actually the last Suikoden game to be brought outside Japan. Again, just like the PSP game, it wasn't actually developed by all the Suikoden team, so therefore, it's not canon. You have probably noticed that all canon titles exist within the same universe, but in a different chronological order. Tierkreis, however, was the first to abandon that idea, becoming an independent title with an independent universe. This turned down many fans from the series, but it's still a cool game to play. That is, despite its annoying protagonist and other annoying details, but you know, in any case, it may not be that similar to the others, but you should give it a chance. Trust me, it's a great game nonetheless. So now, number 6. Suikoden Tactics. This is a spin-off of Suikoden IV for the PS2, and it's the first and only game that was not met with a turn-based battle system. Instead, as the title says, it was a tactical role-playing game. Actually, this is the first Suikoden that I ever played. Yeah. Later I got into the first two titles for the PS1 and I became a hardcore fan. This game was originally called Rhapsodia in Japan. It sounds nice, right? I don't understand why they changed the name to Tactics, but whatever. Also, chronologically speaking, this is the very first story in the series. The game itself, it's not that good, but it's still cool considering it takes place before and during the events of Suikoden IV. However, to tell you the truth, if you're not a fan of the series, you might want to pass on this game. It's decent, but that's just it. Number 5. Suikoden IV. Okay, now we're getting into the canon series. Suikoden IV for the PlayStation 2 is a great game. Many people see this as the black sheep of the family, but I still love it. I admit it's not as good as the others, considering this one has many flaws that almost ruin the entire franchise, but I will deny that it's bad. It's not bad, it's good. Turns out it has a terrible navigation system. Most of the time you have to go out into the sea, with random encounters included, to get to anywhere in this game. That and the fact that they reduced your party to 4 characters during battle, when it had always been 6. But apart from that, I highly recommend playing this game. So for the canon series, this is chronologically the first story in the Suikoden universe, taking place 150 years before the first Suikoden title. Number 4. The very first Suikoden ever made. For those who don't know, this series of video games are based on the classical Chinese novel with the same name. All of them center around a main character that builds their own army, including 108 other characters known as the Stars of Destiny, to defeat a corrupted or evil empire. But in the end, it all turns out to be the circling around some mystical crystals called the True Runes. Some of the characters will join you in battle, some others in war battles, and some others will just stay in your castle to carry out other stuff. This is what every single Suikoden game is about, at least the canon series. The very first game, it's very short, but it's still awesome nonetheless. And chronologically speaking, this is the third game in the Suikoden timeline. Great game, by the way. Give it a chance if you can. Number 3. Of course, Suikoden III for the PlayStation 2. This one takes place 19 years after the first Suikoden, and it occurs in the same continent. What's really awesome about this game is that it was the first and only title where you can place 4 main characters. Additionally, after finishing the game and recruiting all the 108 Stars of Destiny, you unlock the 5th main character route, but it's very short. I love this game. It's one of my favorites and it's so much fun to play since you can switch between the main characters after completing one of their chapters, so you can get all points of views during the storyline. Also, it has no voice acting. That's because it was one of the very first JRPGs ever made for this console. That doesn't mean it's a bad game at all. It's marvelous! I totally recommend playing this game. It's just one of the very best. And a few years ago it was my favorite. Really, but over the time I got to like other titles a little bit too much. And so with that said, let us go to number 2. Yeah, Suikoden II for the PS1. It takes place 3 years after the events in Suikoden 1. This game nailed the series into success. Many consider this to be the very best Suikoden ever made, and some even say it's one of the best JRPGs of all time. I agree, but sometimes I think they're overreacting. It's an awesome game, but let's not go that far. We all know it got part of this extreme popularity since it was a limited print and therefore not too many copies exist out there, which caused a rise on its price and several years later after its release. Yes, this is one of the most expensive and hard to get games for the PlayStation 1, currently going for over $150 or more. Wow! But anyway, it's a wonderful game and I agree that it is truly a masterpiece. Number 1. Suikoden V for the PS2 had to be number 1. I don't care if the first part of this game is very slow, because that only makes it extremely rewarding when you're finished playing through it. This is the longest and the most complete experience out there to be called Suikoden. It's my favorite and it's, in my opinion, the very best. It takes place 8 years before the events of the first Suikoden, and its story, gameplay and battle systems are truly the best in the entire series. I am very sad to say that this was the last canon game that the whole team technically disbanded after this. It's one of the greatest deceptions in video game history, that the greatest disappointments that such an awesome and well-respected franchise went straight to hell after this, and the possibilities of getting them back to make a new Suikoden canon game are close to zero. But well, in any case, it's a very awesome game, really the best. So there's even another reason for you to go and play this masterpiece if you haven't. Really, greatest Suikoden of all time. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your opinion in the comment section below. See ya!